Hello, fellow Mythrunians. Welcome to another weekly live stream. Hopefully this time we'll actually get to be productive instead of moving development environments for an hour and a half. But basically we're going to be doing what I said I was going to be doing last week, which is implementing the signals and signal handlers and whatnot. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We got the two computer setup working again, so that's good. Those are the patrons. They help keep the lights on, although the list is not particularly up to date. So what we were going to work on last time was the signals and triggers and stuff. What I've been working on the past few days, or past week, is just kind of, finishing up. Like at the end of the last stream, I found that one bug, and so, and so I've been fixing the bugs I've found, because when I fixed that bug, then I found like a follow-on bug. Like, you really have to be careful how you write your rules and stuff. Wow, that's really dark, even though I have that light on. Let me see if I can bump this up a little bit. Yeah, that's probably better. Okay. But like last time, actually that's now shining in my eyes. Let's see, let's get set up here and have her go to work, which is going to just have her walk in there. I think last time we got to a point where she was getting stuck and like the wrong error was happening or something. And so figuring out how to get her consistently stuck was one thing. And then when I figured out how to get her consistently stuck, and I worked out the issue with not why she was getting stuck, but it was like the error reporting wasn't happening like I said it would. Like she said something was successful that wasn't successful. And so then I got that to report the error, but then another thing happened, which was she got stuck on the anvil, and she went to go try to pick up a rod from the. She went to go try to pick up the hammer and the rod from the chest, and it failed. But then she still picked up the hammer and the rod from the chest, even though she was standing over here. So I realized my both the walk activity and the get objects activity had some holes in how, like, for one thing, the walk activity does a few things. It does the pathfinding to multiple points, and then whichever one you find first, that one's the one it goes to, and then it does the actual walk action, which it builds up as a sequence of potentially pathfinding actions and so on. But when it would finish the pathfinding, it would record, oh, that's the object I found that chest. But it didn't record that when it actually walked there. So the thing looking at the walk activity later saying, okay, where did we walk to? It's like, oh, we walked to the chest. Cool, let me look in that chest. Yeah, because the original problem was, now that I remember about it, get by type, the thing that like searches the nearby containers for something, was using proximity to really proximity from the center of the object, which is not a great way to do it, but again, it's important to have things that fail to test. And so she would navigate here, like be right at the corner, and that would be too far away from the center based on the threshold for searching in there. By like 0.1, like a centimeter or two, would be too far. Although sometimes even farther than that, because diagonals, diagonals are farther away than standing right here. And if you make that too wide, then she might be standing way out here and open the chest anyway. But it would only search the surrounding objects. It would never look in the one that we actually said we walked to, because the path walking, when it's doing its little, it's plotting intersections, because it's basically doing a bunch of physics queries in the world, and it already knows it hit this object because that's how it got the contact that says it should stop walking in that direction, right? So it knows what object it hit without being a threshold length away. It knows literally this player will touch, or this mob will touch that object. So that's what I had to record, and that's what I did. But then I was recording it after the pathfinding instead of actually after walking there. Anyway, and so I got to the point where that was working, and then I had to work out why the errors weren't getting reported correctly, and then I did some other stuff to kind of like tighten up the API a little bit as it evolves. But now, so she can create a dagger, and I have some debug stuff built in. So she'll go here and she'll walk through the door and drop the thing off in the chest. Yeah, and she needs to have an open and close animation for dropping things off too. And so like I can't actually navigate her out of here because like as a viewer, I can't open and close the doors, only she can. So I get her back here, and I have like figured out the one place I can still get her stuck. That if I do it just right, I gotta pull up here and then have her toe kind of right in the edge of this object. I think, yeah, so I like took a screenshot of it once so I could get it, but if her toe is right here, it pathfinds as like if she can walk straight this way, but because there's none of that object avoidance stuff that we had in the other, that the actual real game has, the object avoidance stuff, which is, you know, projects a bubble and has her turn away from obstacles and stuff. Because it doesn't have that, she gets stuck on here, or she should. And so that was a consistent way for me to make sure, let me clear the log. It was a consistent way for me to make sure, yeah, so she got stuck. She can't actually walk because her toe is stuck on the edge of the, so failed action, failed to create dagger. And then I can go back through this list and see, yeah, the lines are really long because I have to fix that. I have to fix the to string of, but so it'll tell me which action, which, so that was the other thing is like in the configuration for these actions, I had like all these on failure, you know, log it and set the outer activity to failed, and another, you know, on failure, log it and set the outer activity to failed. I've now made it so that if a child activity fails, it automatically sets the parent to failed, unless you have an on failure, and then you can decide to do something else. For example, like if you were to do a walk waypoints thing, or walk like a walk to all these objects and you failed, then you may pick a different kind of activity to run. Like one example we might get here today is if the mob gets tired, so there may be a signal generator that says, you know, I've been working too long, and then it generates a signal, I'm tired, and then you will maybe have a rest activity, and the first thing the rest activity is going to do is like, hey, are there any chairs around here? And if there are no chairs around, we would want to have this on failure that says, okay, well then we're going to try the next thing, which is see if there's just any open spots of ground that I can sit on, kind of thing. Anyway, so yeah, right, like today, I finally got the last bit of that set up so that I can get rid of these on failures, and instead of like manually having to put all of these, you know, sort of debug logs in here, there's now an overall thing that you can add to the NPC's brain that the activity logger, so that you can do what you want. So right now, whenever an activity is started, you know, it adds a think log, which is what this is, the think log in this prototype. And so when an activity actually fails, it posts it here, and when an activity is done, it posts that here. So so we see that, yeah, walk nearest object failed, get by type failed, which means the overall create dagger activity finished in a status of failed. And so so that was why I was able to get rid of all these sort of seemingly redundant on failure. So you don't have to catch failure unless you want to do something with that failure. And so now is forked will also return true if you're in a failure state. So is forked actually should be called is forked or failed at this point. So if you get out of here and you've either got another activity, child activity running, or you are in a failed state, you return because basically this activity is done too. Otherwise you fall through to the next. So if you fall out the bottom, that's a presumed overall success, and so on. And I just haven't gone back and removed these because I commented them out to test them. And I'm pretty sure that I committed those already. Yes. Okie dokie. So that's where we are. I'm going to do something real quick, which is to change the toString of walk to nearest object so that it's not so giant. Right now it's logging every location that it's supposed to go to. And probably it doesn't need to do that. Let's see who. So we've got one viewer on. Hello, one viewer. I know I sent the notifications out late to the Discord server. I had cut and pasted it and everything to paste it in, and I just somehow walked away without doing it. All right. Yeah, so eventually, you know, because the pathfinding will, or not the pathfinding, but the object avoidance would have had her, you know, turn out a little bit and walk around this, and that would have been enough to make the this succeed. And so then she'll make another one and put it away. Yeah, so like now she'll say, somehow I still say done, create dagger, success, but anyway. So we're working it out. And the thing is, like, as I get, like, talked last week about how this in the end sort of, so these, yeah, the other things, these should never be seen anymore because these were to catch the failure of the other when we didn't catch the failure correctly, so I can remove those. But I talked before about how this is a lot like a behavior tree, except for we're configuring it in code. So, you know, this run is called, we're going to call context fork, which is going to run that one. If that didn't do anything, then we'll call the next one and so on, which is a bit like a sequence node. Excuse me. Which is a bit like a sequence node in a behavior tree. I think I have my, yeah, so like before we were drawing this, like if you had a, I think this was a behavior tree, yeah. So it's like you had do this, then do this, then do this, then do this kind of thing. That would just be in code, you know, fork, and if you're forked, return, otherwise fork, and then if you're forked, return. But the ability to have like code in between to do stuff, and to decide that you want to run all of them, so that would be like a parallel. That's also a thing in behavior trees where you can not just run this one and if it's not done, you know, return back up, but to run all of them in some piecemeal fashion. You can do that by just taking this out if we wanted, whatever getrod was. If getrod could run in parallel with gethammer, it doesn't make sense in this case. Then you could just call them both and not have this in there. Anyway, so it's a little flexible, but as the API trims itself down and I don't need these sorts of things anymore, it will be a little clearer how it might get refactored, and it could end up looking even more like a behavior tree. And you know, there's always the possibility that it ends up turning into just behavior trees. Yeah, see, we don't need these anymore, and so like some of these start to look really simple. Although again, like we have like different kinds of things we can do that aren't activities, and we might make decisions in here, and this is one thing that would be more difficult in a behavior tree. Let's look at get by type, because get by, this is the regular get object. I know specifically an object, whereas get by type is, hey, I want this many of a particular type of object, and this is the one I usually use. And so this one's been refactored a few times, whereas the other one hasn't anyway. So yeah, so this one has a loop in the middle that, yeah, I was cleaning all of this up, in fact, because let me make sure I don't need any of these comments anymore. Okay, that was definitely not something I needed. It's good to go through a few passes of cleaning out some of the cruft, especially in this prototype, because then I use this as the basis for cut and pasting into real Java code. If we don't have a specifically found object, yeah, so that's the change was if the walk behavior, if we already know where we've arrived at, then we'll use that. Otherwise, we'll look right around us to see if we happen to be close enough to one of the containers we're supposed to search. What that allows us to do is if there is a case where we're standing next to like 3 different chests, we don't necessarily have to waste time navigating to them if they're within our threshold. We'll just search them all without doing, you know, the navigation steps. If we don't specifically have found an object, then to check the right. Note the fact that we do this loop in each run is a feature because it means if we are standing close enough to a bunch of containers that we will search and remove them one by one without pathfinding or anything. So that's what I just said. Yeah, and position now the position class now has a built-in not taxi cab distance, 2D distance. It's like 2.5D distance, where it checks like you're pretty close between these two. The position location, because the position has location and direction and potentially other information, because it can be a bunch of different things. Like in the in a town graph, like position inside of a building can know which building it's in and stuff like that. Has different information tagged to it. And this just says what we want to know the 2D distance, but where y is within plus or minus 1 meter, so that basically we're not trying to if there's a chest on the second floor, we're not trying to pathfind to that particular chest, that kind of thing. We'll only search the ones that are like nearby us, plus or minus a meter. So so then I said threshold needs to be bigger. Nope, that's not true anymore. Figure out why the walk activity's last target is not correct. We figured that out. Yeah. So we don't really need those anymore. And so yep, if the distance was less, then we found the container, and we don't need to look through its items because we do that separately now. So whether we found the container because we walked there or we found the container because it was nearby us, we go through that and we go through all the items. Now technically this should be in its own action that opens the container. Then the player will search for it and we'll just grab the things. Here we put the open and close as part of the grab, but really the open should be even looking in the container. So if she's walking around, even if she goes to an empty container and searches in there, which she will do, then you know, if she goes to this empty container and searches in there, it should open and close the thing. Eventually the mobs will have like a short-term memory to say that, you know, they've already searched that chest, they don't need to go there again and stuff. But that's a bigger problem and not one we're dealing with now, because that doesn't have anything to do with the framework. Yeah, so then it should be impossible. So there's a bunch of that stuff I could also clear out, but I kind of wanted to see what we looked like all together. And so this, a lot of this is like standard stuff. This could be a behavior tree condition. This could be a behavior tree condition. And this could be like a behavior tree node and so on and so forth. But we start to get, it's just convenient to have the code right in where you need it. And as I said, like this actually would get a lot easier if either of these containers was found and then we just forked another activity to search that particular container. And then we could say, hey, if we found anything, because on success it would say, it would add to that to our inventory. And then if we found anything, then we could leave. Although then it would be, I think, possible to get here again. Anyway, that'd be interesting to see if we see this. I see, because we always exit out of the... Yeah, so if I change this to be a separate activity, this if would come back, and potentially, except for when the fork was done, we'd get called again and we'd fall out here. Yeah, so it would all works. This block should never still be run, but that's why I have an exception here just to prove it. There's so much logging going on, I wouldn't notice unless I see a big giant stack trace or the operation just plain fails. Anyway, so that's where we are. So what I'd like to do is to start getting back the signal generators to the point where I can re-implement the existing Gayfin behavior, the existing dog behavior, and so on, where they have like a hunger and a loneliness and that kind of thing. And so eventually I'll also probes, like maybe some of you remember sometime back that actually we can show it in case some of you are watching that have not seen the game before or don't know what I'm talking about. I don't need to. I kind of hate it when other videos make reference to, oh yeah, I did that in a video 6 months ago, but then don't actually show anything about it. So let's just continue the last world. Which is the world I used to capture the screenshots for the website banners, I think. Yeah, we don't get sound because for whatever reason, the Elgato device or whatever that's doing the video. By the way, for those of you who may have been here last week, the video issue turned out to be that the cable was loose, the video cable, because it was all working again except for the screen was sliding up and jittering again. And I'm like, this is just like when a TV doesn't have as good a signal, and so I wondered if the cable's loose, and that's what it was. Plugged the cables in, it stopped. I plugged the cables in a little better. They felt tight, but I plugged them in a little better and it stopped. So it was either that or the device itself just needed to be picked up and put back down. Though I did do that last week. So yeah, we'll end up in the world here. It's probably going to be too dark for YouTube. So let's pause time. Oh, we don't want to change the day. Oops. Oh well, we already changed the day. Okay. So this is the daytime. Oh, hello. Got an elf here. Actually, this should be enough to show. I'm pretty sure we left the it's the F12? No, that's a screenshot. Control F11? No. Uh-oh. Before, there was a debug mode where it would show the vision cones, but I don't remember. Yeah, what was that? Oh, maybe it's disabled now. But as the dogs and the people and stuff were walking around, you could see like they had a vision cone, and so they could tell when things entered or exited their vision. They also, it would show the probes for the, yeah, what is the probe debug? What? It could be that it is that control F11 since that's failing. Yeah, that's the probe debug state. So at some point I've screwed up the probe debug state. It's not that I've screwed up the probe debug state. It's that now when objects go to sleep, when the agents, the mobs go to sleep, like they're just outside of view, they go to a low activity mode, and I put them back. I take their agent driver away and I put them back into just a standard, basically the upright driver just keeps them up from falling over on the ground, because physics forces would make these guys fall over. But yeah, the probe debug state's not meant to look at that. So let's see if we can just fix that real quick. I can't do it with this running, but there's a certain amount of focus I have today these days, and if there's little things like this, I have to take care of them right away, or they don't get taken care of. Probe debug Mythruna client.log. Oh, yeah. .log. There we go. Okay, yeah, so we had like the probe debug state with Mythruna client view. Okay, just that's what I wanted to make sure it was still. There is a like a main Mythruna open source stuff. There's the base debug states in there that state and app state's like a JMonkey engine thing. It's just sort of modes of the application, if you want to think of it that way. And so somewhere we have if agent. So we can say if not instance of agent driver turn, and we'll log debug body driver is not an agent driver for entity. Alright, now if we run again, oops, if we run the right command again, come on. But at the point of this conversation is at some point porting this to real code, there comes a point where it's easier to port the new brain to the existing engine and reuse the probes and things like that it's already got than it would be to try to port the probes and the agent view frustums frustum to the prototype. It's like I in the long run it's better to have them in the prototype because I can then over the years continue to test things there, but in the shortest path to getting this in the engine and maybe getting another release out with smarter mobs, there becomes a point where I have to make a decision whether to just start porting this over to the engine or to continue porting things from the engine over to the prototype tool. And this is one of those things. So let's see if we can do it. Yeah, okay, this is what I wanted to see. Awesome. Okay, so this red cone is what she can see right now. Oh yeah, we've got a bird out in the woods there. So this is what she can see. We got like a couple of mobs out there doing their thing. And then like the green bubble is like her personal space bubble, where if there's motion and stuff near her, she's like, basically by default she sees that. And this semi-clear thing is her avoidance probe. If that hits something as she's walking around, she'll turn away, or she'll try, if it hits, yes, she's already tried to turn away from me, just approaching her too closely. This is actually broken. This is this actually I might port to the prototype because I need to do this in a better way. The fact that she's standing there and this is still a big giant sphere in front of her, it should tuck in to her. Like she obviously would be would like to avoid looking right at me, but like I can't approach her any closer. And so one of the things that's a problem is if I'm swinging my sword, I don't think I can ever get close enough without her turning away. Oh, I can, just barely, right? But the point is, it's like that's yeah, it's like hey, 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 hey. The point is like this should be tucked in. It's one thing for her to like not want somebody right in her face, but from approaching and having like a meaningful dialogue, we'd want to be maybe this close and have her looking at us. Like if you look at from far away, like I'm still really far away from her from a we're talking to each other standpoint, and so that's not cool. But anyway, this is the that's what I was talking about with the view frustums and yeah. So even the dog over here. I thought there was a dog over here. Anyway, maybe it's just a bunch of people NPCs. But you can see the birds over there. They've got their own. The butterfly does not. I think it's up to the NPC. What is this over here? Hey Max, how's it going? Looks like something's stuck in the ground. Wondering if I should let it out. Oh yeah. Get my build wand out. Ah, it was a bird stuck in the ground. How'd you get stuck in the ground? Alright, well he's stuck down there until he flies high enough to get out. Anyway, you can see the birds even, yeah, so see that's how you get stuck in the ground, because you're not flying out like you're supposed to. Oh, there's an it wasn't stuck in the ground, it was stuck in the building. I forgot, the library has a basement. I should probably put these blocks back then. And we'll put some grass over it. Okay, whoops. Yeah, I gotta add the automata rules to keep people from putting grass in the middle of the. So anyway, that's these things. I have to make the decision: do I port them over to the prototype or not? Because they're part of the signal generators. Every few frames, you know. Well, actually, every frame I think it knows, or can be every few frames. Like who enters your view, who exits your view, and then you can do stuff about that. These are all potential signals that the NPC gets, but they're not necessary for me to necessarily work out the framework itself, as long as I have some kind of signal that can interrupt a current activity. You know, so she's working at the anvil, but she sees, you know, a bad guy or a wolf or something run into her field of view. She can, you know, potentially get distracted and do something about that. That's the kind of thing I need to work out in the prototype. Having specific kinds of signal generators, maybe not so much. But in as much as these might change, like especially the probe stuff, it's quite likely that I'm going to do this a different way, and so that might make sense to port to the prototype. Anyway, we're wasting time now because like we can get to work. Anyway, that's what the game looks like with its debug view on. Alright, so try to think if there's anything else I want to talk about while we're still in the game, since it takes a while to load. Anyway, I miss playing the game, so it's good we got a little. For those who haven't seen the game before, you can see really far. That's an airship over there. That is the same kind of air that's in the bubble, right? That's my cursor, the bubble. That's the same kind of airship that's over here, just really far away, hovering over near that mountain. Anyway, need to get back to the game at some point. Anyway, alright, so back to work. And what I wanted to do was decrease the string of the walk. Which is going to be in here. No, it's going to be in. It's the only activity I've really ported to Java code, which is walk to nearest. Yep, get rid of this. We don't need it anymore. Try to clean things up as we go. Yeah, there's a ton of logging in here. And I don't need this anymore either. And then to string, probably, let's make a full version. There may be times where I do want to see the full thing. For now, this is going to be, so that'll be enough, I think. One of the things is, as the walk to nearest object, as you walk to one of the locations, it removes that location, and so the next time, the count is less. And so that is one thing we do want to keep in the debug output, so that we can see that, oh yes, it went to the first chest, it went to the second chest, and so on. I bit my cheek last night, and it's really painful. It's really far back too. I didn't even realize my teeth could bite my cheek that far back. Alright, so that's done, which means if we can do some more actually in the two targets. Oh. Well, we can fix that as well. We don't have to fix it. We can just do that. Let me make sure that can't be null. It can't be null. Okay. Alright. So then we have to figure out what we're doing today. I think maybe we'll make let's make a hunger or tired, like not sleepy tired, but fatigued signal generator, perhaps. Something easy to prove the concept. See, I got this little lunch table set up for eating. Okay, let's make sure everything works like we think. Work. That means that's just going to walk to the anvil. Eventually this will put her into work mode, which will just keep making daggers until she runs out of rods, basically. Okay, so she's doing her thing. Brain. Yep, walk to nearest object. Now shows target count. Cool. Okay. So, let's see, the old brain expired. NPCs have needs. I don't think I heard you talk about that before. Do they only get tired of working or hungry as well? They'd get hungry, yeah. So hunger, thirst, fatigue. That's going to be, in as much as the player can get hunger, thirst, fatigue, so can NPCs. So the town will manage their general day such that they will take a break for lunch, take a break for dinner. So they shouldn't get hungry, but most of them will probably carry a snack around just in case. And of course, if there's ever like NPC followers where you can have like a party of people following you, you may have to make sure they're supplied, because you're going to be taking over the role of what the town is doing for them to some extent. They'll sleep when you sleep and eat when you eat and stuff like that. But so the old one would expire short-term memory, generate the signals. Those are the triggers. Process the signals and then do its other stuff. Stats as well. No, I'm not implementing DNA, but I take a lot of inspiration from games like Astronauts and RimWorld and things where, yeah, not only do they have stats on some level, but personality traits that may affect how they treat you and how they interact with the world. I don't know that they'll get as like games like RimWorld and Astronauts really like their negative statuses because that's part of the management of those games. But Mythruna is going to assume that most of the NPCs can go about their daily lives, and but how they interact with you, what information, because there's going to be like a gossip system as well, where information travels through the world, and whether they're willing to share that information with you could depend on how they feel about you, which could be. These are all the plans, right? That doesn't mean I'm going to actually make this work, but this is the plan. And I take inspiration from games like RimWorld and Astronauts, those kinds of games. But like, you may have to do quests for them to make them like you better because they automatically distrust you because they don't like elves or something, that kind of thing. These all stack up, and some of them are really easy to implement, and some of them are really hard to implement. So it remains to be seen how that works out. At any rate, so generate signals, and then we have like triggers, and let me see what the new brain does, 'cause how much should we implement, because I know we did some signal handlers. I think, yeah, we left it up to the driver. We haven't made like a standard update loop, so the brain actions update activities, yeah, that's right, because we have sort of a specific. Eventually, some of this will have to be moved to the brain as well. So we process the signals. We do things in the same order, but here we will want to generate signals. What did I call that in the other brain? I called that generate signals. What do you know? So let's make one of those in the new brain. This seems fine. How do we not have a get agent method? Well, part of it is that when we're in the land of Groovy, and I'm gonna have to recompile before any of this works anyway, like we can access, so Groovy can access the brain.agent, can actually, because it doesn't need a getter, because it bypasses all that. But technically, probably we want to be able to turn the agent. All right, and so I don't know how my mouse pad gets covered with crumbs and stuff for several reasons. One, because I don't eat up here. Where do the crumbs come from? Two, if I were to eat over here, it's strictly in front of me and nowhere near this mouse pad. Yet every day, several times a day, I feel like I'm brushing crumbs off of the mouse pad because it gets gritty. And one might say, well, maybe there's a vent or something blowing that. And I tell you, I've got my vent blocked off with a box. Yeah, I've literally got a cardboard box that blocks off my vent. And then I have, I don't have a cat. I'm the only one who comes in this office. And I have my vent is blocked off by a cardboard box, which I have like black hoses running out of so that I can direct the air specifically to where I want. Like I have one that directs down behind my computers to help keep them cool, and another one that like goes down behind the monitor here, but that one's closed off. So I don't know where it comes from. Anyway, it's very bizarre. Yeah, I don't even want to. So we've talked about getting a cat, and I don't even want to think about what the cat would do in here. I'd have to do some cat proofing for sure. Yeah, let's not think about that too deeply. Okay, so we have a generate signals, and I think we're going to steal as much as we can the signal generator from the old brain. I think it worked okay, but it's, if nothing else, it's a good place to start. Oh, and I even had some built-in generators. Yeah, I mean, it's really straightforward. So let's make a signal generator. So at some point, this code gets moved over to the open source packages. This is why it's got the full license in there. Oh yeah, this is just an interface. Doesn't need all that crap. So this is brain. So there'll be like a mbrain library or something. Okay, so we've got that. I think that means we can compile. I'm going to go ahead and kill this for a minute, just to make sure. Just to make sure things still compile. Oh yes, of course. I will need the list of signal generators. I think that I really need to make my own collections class. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, so this this dynaray is in the physics engine. But it's like a Java array list, but that you can get a copy of the array out of. But unlike copy on write, copy on write array list, the concurrent version works the same, except for it will copy on every write, I believe. Whereas this only copies the underlying array if it's changed. And so you can add a bunch of things to it, and then when you try to iterate over it, it will make the array at that time. But it's safe because you can add and remove things to it while you're iterating, which is convenient. Like JMonkey Engine has safe array list, which is the same thing, but I figured at least if I have them in here, at least they are within my own open source libraries. I don't have to like depend on a particular visualization for the AI stuff. Although I apparently do depend on. No, it's not that. It is Memphis. That's where it is. 99% sure that this is where dynaray is. Straightforward class, just not something Java provides. And the reason for it is if you're going to be iterating over something every frame or many times a frame, then those constant allocations of iterators starts to really add up. But in this one, you can call signal generators.getArray, which gives you that underlying array that it built anyway. And so then iteration is memory-wise, iteration is free. You don't have to create any temporary objects on the heap. And so it can be useful. Yeah, so right here, so we get array. So it has two benefits. One is while we're iterating, we can modify signal generators. So, and unlike copy on write array that's built into the JDK, this is not thread safe. It's just iteration safe in that if generate signals wanted to, if a particular listener or generator wanted to add or remove itself, that's totally fine. a generator can add or remove whatever it wants. That'll be seen on the next loop, like in the next time this loop is run. Not the next iteration of the loop, but next time generate signals is called. This would get the new array. So that's useful. The other useful thing is that it doesn't allocate an iterator because we're just iterating over the array. And I believe, well, I'm not going to make any comments about hotspot and its ability to. So an array in Java is of static length, and this may be superstition on my part or manufactured lore or something, because it's been a really long time, like my kids were babies, since I've looked into the Java code, like actual Java source code. But I remember that hotspot could do more intelligent things iterating over an array with the respect to checking the index values. So normally if you were going to do, for I equals 0, I is less than the length of the array, I plus plus, every time you get an item from that array, you pay a penalty that it's going to check, is I less than 0? Is I greater than the length of the array? And technically, in this for loop construct, if you were to generate the bytecode for this, you would not need to do those index checks every time through the loop, because you already know the mechanics that is unrolling this into bytecode. It's not even a hotspot issue. This is just a bytecode generation. I'd have to look at the Java P output, but there should be no reason to do per iteration index checks, because you know already that your loop is bound by the array, so and so forth. Anyway, I don't know that it's true, but it would be impossible for it to be true if I used another construct, so I use the construct that's likely to be more efficient when I have to do things every frame for every NPC. I try to be as efficient as possible. Anyway, and there could come a time where we don't generate signals every frame, but alright, so that's all hooked up, which means now we need the code to add signal generators. I don't know if we ever exposed that in the old brain. Yeah, I don't know that it's true, like I said, but it can't be true if I use a different approach. But if you think about it, iterating over that loop, iterating over that loop, Java already knows it's only going to request valid indexes. So technically there should be a way it can avoid the thing. But the other big one is that it doesn't have to make a new iterator object. It's otherwise doing all of the same amount of work as an iterator, except for it doesn't have to make an iterator object on the heap. And while temporary objects in Java get garbage collected really easily, almost as trivially as C++ stack allocated, not as quickly as them, but almost as quickly. Modern Java, modern desktop Java for sure, you don't really have to think about temporary objects. You pay the expense for creating them, but other than that, you don't have to worry about them hanging around for a long time or anything. I came here to see if there was a way to add generators, and I got sidetracked. I think they're all built into the... Yeah, so we've got some signal generators that are built into Brain by default. That's probably not a great thing. And then there was... Nope. There must be a way to add them because the... Yeah, they're there. Okay, I was going to say there must be because the old code definitely had signal generators. Like Mythruna right now, the Gafen get hungry and peck at the ground, stuff like that. Yeah, I'll worry about the order of things later. Oh, that's not what I want. This is what I want. So yeah, let's put this here. always good to be reflected, reciprocated, remove. Okay, so now we can add and remove generators. Eventually it could be more advanced than that. Oh yeah, brain. Look at the old brain. Yep, it just generated the signals. Didn't worry too much about whether they made signals or not. Like I said, eventually I'm going to have to tuck all that into the brain itself. Okay, so now we have signal generators. We should be able to do our thing. Yeah, so with this we'll simulate either hunger or fatigue. And then we can set up different signal handlers to deal with that. Alright, so how do I want to do this? Okay. Thinking. There's always the how do you do it in the real code versus how do we do it in the prototype, because we just want to get something working today. Where do I set up the other things? So we could set one up in here. I probably want to give some kind of just properties. Oh, Groovy overloads the word properties a lot. Let's call variables. Okay, and so brain add signal handler, or no, what do I call it? Signal generator? Yeah, signal generator. And it takes these arguments. So add signal generator. Probably I do want to give these a name at some point, like the signal. Anyway, whatever. I want to. What do I want to do? I want to get the current hunger value, or idle time. Let's just make a fatigue. Fatigue. Brain.agent.variables. What is the? So there's a new for me. Where is my? There it is. HashMap has a way of, was it get, calculate or whatever. I can never remember off the top of my head. Compute if absent, that's what it is. Fatigue. 0.0. Fatigue plus equals step. And then we'll store it back again. So we get most of what we already want here. Put fatigue. And then so there's an interesting aspect of this. You know, you could multiply. So we're just setting fatigue to time passing, which allows us to think about fatigue in the unit of time spent. Like you could multiply it by a scale, you know, so that fatigue was some number between 0 and 100, whereas 100 meant you were super tired or whatever. But there's nothing wrong with thinking of fatigue, at least in the prototype, in the sense of hours spent or minutes spent doing something. And so the idea being, if I'm standing here, just standing, that's my base level fatigue. That's just time ticking by. If I was to do a strenuous activity, then it's like I'm using up more hours of my fatigue. And so the activity itself would potentially subtract or add more fatigue. And so then you can decide how long, so you can make reasonable, how long standing still, you know, how many seconds of standing still before I should sit down, right? And that's what this is right here. So fatigue is greater than or equal to however long we want. And in this case, we want it to be something reasonable so that we don't have to wait hours. So we're making 60 seconds. So every minute, the mob is going to want to sit down. And so then we will say brain. See, there's also brain signal. Yep, brain signal tired, fatigued. Brain signal fatigued. And you know, in real life, in the real game, fatigue itself is going to be something specific, not just "am I tired" kind of thing. So we have signal fatigued, and then we want to do something on that. Oh, so far our signals are capitalized. So brain on signal fatigued. Fatigued. And we'll just make a rest activity. Rest. And brain run activity. Except for, so the initial problems I see with this is, unless that activity immediately changes the fatigue, we're just going to keep running that activity over and over again. So what we may want to do is set a mode. But then the mode would override any of our current modes. There's also, like, I've overloaded the word mode too many times. I think brain is the keeper of a mode. Yeah, the mode graph. So let's assume for the moment that I'll have solved the problem of multiple modes at once, which I have not. So we can activate a mode, but that doesn't push the current mode, etc. So instead of running an activity, we will brain modes, activate mode. And that's going to no such mode us right away. We just want to make sure that if we get fatigued while we're fatigued, we're not just going to keep launching the same activity over and over again. And so instead of, there can only be one mode at a time, and unless you clear that mode, in fact, we can use the this to if brain modes current mode, I think it's get mode, get active mode, and then yeah, so I've got this weird indirection. I need at some point reconcile. So let's assume modes is there, but active mode might not be. So if fatigue, if rest is already what we're doing, then don't accumulate any more. Oops. My fingers got off one column on the keyboard. So don't accumulate fatigue while we're resting. And technically we could subtract it there too, but like I want to actually like run an activity and some actions. And so if I was to save right now, we'd start to get a bunch of, after 60 seconds, we'd start to, assuming it compiles it all, that's a big assumption right away. Let me see if I've done anything else with modes. Nope. Okay, so then we're going to want to add a mode. Brain modes, add mode, fatigued. And I don't think I have to do anything with that. Add mode. Oh, I have to make a mode. Oh, that's right. And there's actually an activity mode already. I have done something with this already. I don't know where it is, but I've done something. Okay. This is a weird indirection, but there's a reason for it. So def, so no, we're saying new activity, and I don't have to do this. Activity mode, brain. Yeah, it's weird I have to do that. Name and new rest activity. We'll call that rest. We don't have that yet. It's going to fail if I try to compile. Oh, well, it fails for more reasons than that. Caused by oh, I missed parenthesis. That's fun. Okay, so now it should fail for a different reason. 856. Okay, so somewhere else I've also, that's got all of its, that's got all of its. Somebody is missing a parenthesis. Yeah, right here. Groovy. The more dynamic your scripting language get, yeah, so that's the one I expected. No rest activity. The more dynamic your scripting language get, the harder it becomes for it to determine what you messed up when you leave something off like a parenthesis, because well, maybe you meant this or maybe you meant that. Okay, so we've got, what we've done here is we've said we've added the signal generator that if we're not already in the rest mode, and there should be a better way to determine this really, then we'll add time to our fatigued score. If that gets above a certain amount, we'll start sending these fatigued signals. Well, right now whenever we see a fatigue signal, we'll put the NPC, no matter what mode they're in, they'll interrupt whatever they're doing and they'll go into rest mode. And then rest mode is this as an activity mode. Now mode can be just a general thing that can like maybe not a specific activity, though I kind of feel like it's always going to be a specific activity. But the bottom line is that if I'm already in rest mode, then activate mode rest is not going to do anything. So this can only ever be activated once, so that I'm not constantly resetting the rest activity. So if I get tired, I'm going to start this rest activity, which we have to implement now. And I will put that up here somewhere near in and around our other, or maybe I'll grab one of those activities and put it down at the bottom so that we don't have to do this hunt every time. Wherefore art thou, activity? There was one. I'm trying to find a simple one though. Maybe we don't have a simple one. Okay, so create dagger will be a decent enough base activity, and we'll put this way down at the bottom. So rest activity. What we're going to need is a we're going to want to get a chair. No, that's not what we want. Walk to chair. We want to find the nearest chair, but that's not going to be a get by type. We want to walk to an object of a particular type. That'll be the bulk of this activity as well. But for now, we'll do the bastardized version. We'll just get all of the chairs, and when we start all of the type chairs, if chairs is empty, chairs is empty, we'll do the same kind of thing. No chairs found. So if we try to start this and there are no chairs in the world, or there are no chairs, like this is like all the chairs in the world, which isn't realistic. It's going to be within a certain range, or chairs we know, or something. Then we'll say, why do we set success? We want to set failure. That's interesting. Alright, and we don't need this. We're going to steal some stuff from get by type. So you get to see kind of how a how an activity would get written. So this is what I want. This stuff right here. Oh yeah, we're gonna have to get. Okay. So back up here. So if we have chairs, first of all, we want to just do this so that we can simplify some of this other code. So we found all our chairs. We can like log to the think log that we've got chairs. Chairs. Oh, chair. Always good when you lose the ability to type on a live stream. Okay, so we got all that stuff. That's all good. Yep, we already have the chairs is empty and failed. Oh yeah, saying it is a good idea too. No chair to found. We're going to do something different when we have no chairs later. So we'll limit this by distance and we'll do something else. But for now, we'll have it navigate. No matter how tired they are, they're going to navigate to the nearest chair, which could be halfway across the map, which is dumb. But yes, it will serve our purposes to make sure all the stuff is connected. Blah blah blah. Walk to nearest objects. So this is going to be our walk to chair. New walk to nearest object within like half a meter. Actually, let's make it within 0.2 meters, and then we'll do chairs entry set each. Sometimes you just really, yeah, sure. But even if you walk all the way home to go sit in your favorite chair that's up in your bedroom, and so then we'll add a target. Right now I'm just going to make it the center of the chair. But actually the chair and the bed have this concept of where you would stand to be near them. And it's not walk, it's walk to chair. Okay, so that's when we start up. When this activity is started, it's going to look up the chairs and set up the walk to nearest object. Then when we actually run, what we first want to do is we want to fork that action. Fork that. Fork you action. Walk to chair. We don't have to do anything on failure. Yeah, there's an on failure that I forgot to remove. On success, though, I want to walk to chair, and then on success, we'll want to set the action to sit in the chair. And I don't think we need anything else. This is a straightforward activity. Except for that we'll want to keep doing it. If we have, so if something else interrupts us and we come back, we will want to make sure to do all the things again. And so we will always set ourselves to working. Status, action, result, working. So that we don't, like by default, if we fall out of the run method, it will think that this activity is done. And then this activity won't run anymore. But what we really want is that while we are in the rest activity, if for some reason some other thing made us get up out of the chair and go somewhere else, we'll want to walk back to the chair, and then we'll want to sit down. This is where we sit down. And I already have an action for this. I just have to copy the chair code here. Yeah, this stuff. Oh boy. Yeah, so this does a bunch of work. So I started with the idea that there's this concept of where you stand to sit on a bed or where you stand to sit on a chair, but I haven't generalized it yet, I guess. So here we're going to get the on success, then the chair is going to be the walked chairs. Technically, we could have just forked. We could have done if. Anyway. Yeah, in fact, we have to do that. All right, we'll just. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. There's a state problem here, in that we'll have to have walked there to sit there. But if we were already there, we wouldn't sit. So there really needs to be here. Am I already doing this action? If not, then I need to run this action, kind of thing. But we'll just make it so that it's a state flip. So when we walk to the chair, we'll sit in it. And if we were already at the chair, too bad. Walk to chair. That's the thing, and we want to get arrived at. And then if chair, no, that we should never have gotten here. Context set status action result failed. But like again, we should never get here. Context agent say no chair found, or no chair arrived at. And we'll let that sit up there for 30 seconds because that's a bad thing. This should never happen. Should never happen. Like literally, like it'd be, even if you write unit tests, it'd be impossible to get test coverage on this block. Alright, so we've got a chair, we've got the orientation, and then we, yeah, so this would be a property of the object where we figure out where we want to, what the direction is that you need to sit in when you're sitting in it. Like a stool, it wouldn't matter, but a chair, you have to sit in a specific place. All that's good, and so we figure out, we project forward where we want, and then I would draw a marker, but I'll leave that out for now. And then so then we set the mode sit, and we set it where, and a mode, this is like a different kind of mode. That's the thing, is mode is overloaded. We've got movement modes, we've got the agent mode, and we've got the overall like activity modes, and so I've got to come up with better names for all of those that distinguish them. But at this low level, this is like, am I sitting, am I standing, am I laying down kind of mode. You can only do one of those, and to transition from one to the other, you may have some actions you have to perform, like to transfer from laying in the bed to standing by the bed, you have to run, a series of actions. So from going from so the action from going from sleeping to sitting is one thing versus going from sleeping to standing. There are a different set of actions that have to run to make that happen. So that's what this mode graph is. This is an actual state machine. This should work if it compiles. It did not compile. No signature of method compute if absent is applicable for argument types. Oh, yeah. I forgot. It's a closure. Except for, like, the first argument is the key, and then you get a, yeah, that's right. So the first argument's the key, and then you get a key, and you return a value. Yeah. Or something else. No such property, fatigue. 844. Oh, fatigue. I was pronouncing it incorrectly, fatigue, and that made me think of Q, and so then I put a Q in there a couple times. And that's actually, it's in here too. Yeah, so that's a problem. Fatigued. I can't believe I did that. Alright, so after a minute, she should try to find, and we should probably add we can add we can add it to that little chart there. We don't need the rigid body. We do want variables, and we do want fatigue. All right, let's see if that works. All right, so now we've got fatigue, which is null. Uh-oh. Fatigue, there is no value. Alrighty. Let us find... Oops. That can't be right. Log info. Fatigue. Oh, okay. It did run something after a while. It's no such mode rest. Oh yeah, of course. But that I'm gonna let it fail for a minute because I want to figure out why it's not. It is updating, but why? Oh, brain. I keep doing it. I keep typing. I shouldn't have put that worm in my brain. Agent driver brain. No, it is variables. So then this is incorrect. Nope. Brain agent variables. Okay, yeah, that's right. So let's log info fatigue. I did it again. Okay, so that should be blah 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 blah. Should dump fatigue out. Yeah, okay. At least we'll see what it changes. I don't know why that's not working. So let's figure that out. So we're going to start the counter over. I got to figure out why that's not working. Did I spell it wrong again? I did. I cannot believe that I get to do that on the live stream. Okay. All right. Something it did not like. Okay, so this has got to be string value of, I guess. Oh, I see. String format. That's not a bad idea, actually. %0.3f 2f. Well, make it. Oh, there we go. All right, let's try again. Pepsi is gone. It's not that sad. It was starting to get warm. Okay, so let's start the simulation. And let's plop her down right here. Hey, look at that. The fatigue is ticking up. Whee! So give her a minute. I may have to lower that threshold just for testing, because we got to sit here and talk for 45 seconds now. How was everyone's week? Did you guys have a good week? I hope it was productive. I was pulled in a bunch of different directions, but I did get to go out to, I went out to an open mic night on Wednesday. I didn't play, but I watched other people play. Been playing a lot of that Styx, STYX, Blades of Greed or whatever game, the new one. Yeah, I'm gonna finish that one, I think, because that's a lot of fun. Okay, so now let's see if it blows up when it hits the 60. Yay! All right. No such property. I joke sometimes that you guys get to watch me write typos in real time, and yeah, I'm gonna change the threshold to like 15 seconds just to make sure it works, so that we don't have to wait so long this time. Okay, so at 15 seconds, she should try to navigate to a chair. I don't know if she'll actually be able to sit in this because the way the table's in the way, but we'll see. Nope, another failure. Using an antique development. Yes, and I do appreciate that you used a word with QUE in it. No signature method, entry set, applicable argument types. What you talking about? Oh, hash set, entry set. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so 2963. Man, this is a big file. 2963. Yeah, I didn't. So this is just chairs. And so we'll say the key is the thing and the location is the thing. Except for it.center. The keys are the location and the values are the thing. Okay, let's try again. But yes, that joke works doubly well because of the QUE and antique. What's it going to fail for this? Oh! Is she going to sit down? Nope. Something else failed. No such property agent for class rest activity. Let's cancel. So she stops doing her thing, and then we'll move her back to somewhere else. Oh, yeah. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Oh, we have to maybe sit and then stand. Cancel, cancel, cancel. Control. No, see, it's not letting me control. Her movement mode was not reset. And so her action, anyway, when I reset the thing, it'll reset that. And I lost the error. 2993. Oh, yeah. Agent. We should have agent as, oh. Does the activity context have the agent? I think it does. Oops, wrong one. Yep. Added it recently, in fact. Context dot agent. Okay, and then we want to control, get her away from here before she, there we go. See if she manages it this time. Yep, she's gonna fail because she didn't walk to the right place. Oh, she did it! Oh! Oh, yeah. Okay. I see how it is. So something's finishing that shouldn't finish, and that's a problem. So let's cancel. Alright. Done rest activity, done rest activity. No, we were doing it. Starting. No, something is wrong. These are from before. So if I control her and take her back over here, she's in sit mode right now. So like the AI, the brain thinks she's sitting, and she's not. So if I put her back into stand mode, then should have generated another signal. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's a bug too. That's why we do this, right? Because we get to work out all the issues. So that's right. Nothing ever took her out of that activity mode, and that's cancel doesn't reset the mode. Okay, so boink, 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 and then we see if the let's cancel, and we'll see if the brain clear state action, sitting chair action, clear state action, sitting chair action. But why clear state action? Why is it restarting every time? So I'm trying to see if we're somehow let me if I sit to see it's not redoing her, that's the appropriate response. So it's not the mode, it's not a mode problem. Stand. And already our generator is not doing what it's supposed to do. Oh, no, it's because we're already... No, see, we're not in sit mode anymore. Oh, but the activity was not cleared. That's right. That's why I can control. So why is it running over and over again? Let's put some debugging in. On success. We don't see if we're sitting already. That is an issue. If we're already sitting, if context, if sit equals context dot agent mode, just trying to see if there's a way to get the mode. Oh, also, the thing about like an IDE would get confused here. It might not actually tell me about misspellings like that, because it was allowed. Dynamic property. Agent mode. Nope. That's not what I want. Maybe it is. Nope. 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 Is it agent? Agent mode. Yep. Get mode. Then the agent mode info. Get mode type. Yep. So mode type. Okay. Okay, so we'll wait till this ticks up to 15 seconds again. She should sit and stay sat. Nope. Busted. Cannot get property type on null object. Oh, of course. We don't have a mode yet, so then it's going to be null. There's going to be better ways to implement, like to better API for that at some point. We're just kind of hacking and slashing at the moment. Okay, so she should sit down and she should stay sat. She's trying to walk over to the front of the chair. Is she going to do it? Yep. She sat down. Yay! Okay, so now she's in sit mode. And I'm not sure why that activity's not still running. Let's see if the activity finished. Rest activity done success. Oh, yeah. So that's actually a problem. Because I just returned instead of setting... Like, we should have continued to say we're working. So that we still stay running. Right? And then we would constantly see this sitting. So she should stand up again. Yep. Let's see if she can do this. Like if she's already right next to the chair, I wonder what happens. Yep. Okay, so now we see... Yep. Sitting. We're running it over and over again, because this is where we would accumulate the... we would add back rest, so... yeah, that's interesting. This activity will deal with its own mode. Double fatigue. We wouldn't have gotten here if we didn't have a fatigue. Agent variables fatigue with a G. Nope, I did it again. I did it again over here too. I think my fingers just, when I'm typing a UE, just want to put the Q there. If fatigue is less than or, I did it again, less than or equals 0, then we will set success. And we will change our mode. Context agent mode set mode stand. I think that's what it is. Set mode sleep, set mode stand, set mode stand. Yep. And actually, technically, we can just do this. Fatigue minus equals. Oh yeah, we don't have a convenient time here. Maybe it shouldn't be a 1-for-1 thing anyway. Let's just we'll just do a 1/10 of a second for now. So basically this says if we're already sitting, adjust our fatigue down by 1/10 of a second. If that's below 0, then stand up again. Otherwise, we're still working, but we're sitting. If we're not sitting, then we're going to do the activity in order to get to be sitting. Okay, so that should make us, first of all, let me move her away some so that it's more interesting. Okay, so we'll watch her fatigue go up. And when it gets to 15, she should go sit down. Okay, and then we should watch it go, oh, we got error. Okay. No such property. I didn't set the value back anyway, so that's a issue. But I spelled it wrong again. I have to think of a different value other than fatigue. Keep typing that incorrectly. Alright, so let's control again to get her away from the chair. We got 15 seconds to do that. Okay. Alright, what's she going to do? When it gets to 15, she should sit down, and then it should start ticking back down again. Okay, so she sits down. And there it goes. She's gonna stand up. Ah! Look at that. Now, okay, so we didn't set our mode. Yeah, so this is the thing, is like we're still in that rest activity finished, but we are still in the rest mode, you know, that larger mode. So that's a problem that there's no easy solution for, except for I can say what can I say? I can say clear active mode. That's the best I can do, but really there should be like a stack of modes. So then we want to say both agent mode, what is it called? Modes. Yeah, there's too many modes. And they all have a slightly different API, so that's got to change. Alright, we'll just let her sit and stand again. But see, she should, whatever she was doing before she decided to rest, she should go back to doing. So she's going to sit down, Now she'll sit for... Uh-oh. No such property modes for new agent driver. That is because it is... agent brain dot modes. Alright. Will she sit and stand and sit and stand and sit and stand? Let's see. Five, four, three, two, one. Okay, let's count back up. And she stands back up. Now she'll get tired again. She'll sit back down. Yep. Okay. And she'll... Yep. Alright, that's working. Okay. I think that's a decent place to stop. We need to have her be able to... I can actually get rid of some of that logging, though. Hey, I spelled it right that time. Okay. So, I need to figure out the mode issue. She needs to be, like, in work mode, like, or whatever she's doing during the day. And then, yeah. Then there needs to be... the signal handler should probably also... this should probably not be based on whether I'm in rest mode or not, but whether I'm already sitting. Like, there's a certain amount of my current state, whether I'm standing or sitting or sleeping, that should affect whether I'm fatigued or not. That kind of thing. So this signal handler needs to be a little bit smarter. And there's some state issues to work out between switching modes, but that's probably more than we want to get into today. Depending on what I work on this week, maybe that's something we can work on next time. I don't know. I kind of like to get to the actual doing of things, having her like go through her whole day. So maybe I'll work that out during the week and just tell you guys about it. But I think it's a good spot to end. We're almost to the 11 o'clock mark. And, yeah. That was pretty productive. We got like a bunch of infrastructure implemented. Now she's got the idea of fatigue. It's very simple, and she's just going to keep sitting there. I do think we need some kind of time. I have to think about how fatigue gets regenerated. It could be that this signal handler needs to be responsible for both adding and removing fatigue. Yeah, exactly. Even the NPCs are tired. Because, like, if this was a real entity system where that's a component, you'd want one system managing that. And so you'd need to set yourself... the mode you are in would set what your current fatigue level is. You know, if you're banging on the anvil, that's a higher fatigue level than if you're sitting, there's 0 fatigue. If you're sleeping, you know, there's 0 fatigue, that kind of thing. And the way we've implemented it now is like, if you're not resting already, you're accumulating fatigue, and that's not right. So there's some thought to be done here that's not infrastructure related necessarily, but just how you want this particular feature to work kind of thing. Anyway, I think that's a good place to end it. So I will go ahead and hit the button that says thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe. It really does matter. If you're not already subscribed, well, that you would have got notified earlier today because the Discord got notified late about the stream. Otherwise, I wish you all a productive week, and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks.